headline that you'll be able to find at the Center Square, Illinois, is making its rounds, and that is Chicago tenant group calls for eviction moratorium amid ICE raids. And you can see this story from contributor to the Center Square, Glenn Menace, with that headline. We'll talk about that now here with Illinois in Focus Daily. I'm Greg Bishop. You can wake up with us here with the Center Square and get the headlines in your inbox at thecentersquare.com, where I'm the editor for Illinois, and you can get even more here with the Center Square on YouTube. All right, so let's go to this story from Glenn Menace, contributor to the Center Square. Chicago Alderman Byron Sigcho Lopez pushing for an eviction moratorium while immigration and customs enforcement agents remain in town. Of course, we've talked quite a bit about the ongoing efforts that immigration and customs enforcement have in enforcing immigration law in states like Illinois that are considered migrant sanctuaries because of state law prohibiting state and local law enforcement from cooperating with federal law enforcement to enforce immigration law. And you've got the DHS and other Trump administration officials saying, hey, we're flooding the zone because we're not getting cooperation. We've seen the clashes between protesters and federal officials and Illinois State Police having to come in to provide a barrier. Is that cooperating with federal enforcement officials, or is that just making sure that the streets are safe for the general public? You have the arguments about the National Guard and whether they're able to come in to assist in providing safety for those federal officials and for federal property. Those are ongoing court cases, challenging the president's authority to be able to do that, and also the president and the federal government suing the state of Illinois over its migrant sanctuary policies. Both things still tied up in court, but regardless, back to the story, this is causing some problems, Sigcho Lopez says, and he's joining All Chicago Tenant Alliance, calling for helping non-citizens in the state of Illinois in Chicago with rental assistance. Here is Byron Sigcho Lopez sharing some of his thoughts in a conversation he had with Glenn Menace.
Quite honestly, to put it blunt, is creating significant harm on people, including federal workers. I mean, federal workers that are not able to work. I mean, the many in furlough, including my wife. So we see the pain of people, federal workers, people who are not able to go to work, people who are not able to go out. And this is creating harm and economic losses for everybody. So certainly, I think that we need to, as other cities are considering, LA and other American cities who do not support the wannabe dictator, who have been attacked, and it's creating hardship and economic hardship, people who cannot pay rent, cannot pay mortgage. And I do think that we need to consider both. One is a potential moratorium on evictions that is being considered in LA and other cities that are under the similar situation. And, we have a lunatic that is creating harm in American cities who don't agree with him. And we need to help people at least to survive this moment. And we also should consider, just like in the pandemic, rental assistance. That's what I've been urging Governor Pritzker, or mayors or county representatives to work together, just as we've done in other crises, to tax the rich, tax the millionaires. There's already a proposal on a surcharge at 3% that will generate $4.5 billion. Massachusetts did it at 4%. They raised $5.6 billion. I think that we could do something similar, and I think everybody agrees. The question is, where's the political will so that we can provide some sort of rental assistance? And I think we also should consider a moratorium on evictions, just given the severity of this economic attack and social attack on our city.
So again, you've got the Chicago alderman encouraging that there be not just a moratorium on evictions, but also a pandemic-era type rental assistance program for non-citizens in Chicago because they're afraid to leave their residence to go to work to make money to pay their rent. Because if they leave, they could possibly get caught by immigration and customs enforcement. And he says it's got people concerned and scared, and it's harming the economy. But this idea of giving rental assistance to non-citizen migrants being opposed by Illinois State Representative Chris Miller, who has also been pretty ardent in opposition to tax dollars going out to non-citizens. Here is Representative Miller in a conversation he had with Glenn Menace, contributor to the Center Square. Here's Representative Miller.
Well, one of the first things that occurs to me is that if you're abiding by the laws of the United States of America, you have nothing to be fearful about. And if you're afraid, I'm guessing that your conscience is bothering you and reminding you that you've done something wrong, because that's the only reason why you would be afraid of anything. I mean, I have two son-in-laws, one black, one brown, and they're legal immigrants, and they don't wake up being afraid of ICE or the police or anything, because they're law-abiding citizens.
So the downstate representative sharing that if you're worried about going out into the streets, you probably have a guilty conscience because you crossed the border illegally. And he then reflects on the question of providing rental assistance to non-citizens.
Plus, if these activists are concerned about them paying their rent, the activists, why don't they just step up to the plate and pay their rent for them rather than complain about it?
We'll see where that goes in Chicago if the conversation continues to move towards providing rental assistance to non-citizen migrants. But clearly that is something that's made the rounds, and people debating it on social media and sharing their thoughts on what exactly should happen with immigration enforcement, rental assistance, or a moratorium on evictions, similar to what they did during the COVID pandemic. And Chicago facing a $1+ billion deficit in their budget. How would you pay for that? And you heard Sigcho Lopez suggests taxing millionaires an extra 3% or 4% and getting billions of dollars that you could tap into for what he says is rental assistance for non-citizens. Again, go to thecentersquare.com. You can read up on that story and so much more, but you can wake up with us here for Illinois in Focus Daily each and every weekday morning with The Center Square.